position.
Morning, everyone. How's it going? Welcome to the collective. Once again, we have another outstanding show planned out here for you today. Unfortunately, I never heard back from Julie, so she won't be joining us this morning.
Okay.
I know it was mine. I forgot to message her right away, and so I messaged her after I came back from jiu-jitsu, which was too late. So
Gotcha. All right. No biggie.
it's okay. It seems like today is a bit of a schlemazel.
I've already adopted the push-up position and appropriately punished myself for showing up late.
I guess if you get
Listen, don't even worry about it because it's not done yet. I'll punish myself some more.
Good. And while you're doing that, everyone else can make sure that they like and subscribe and hit the notification bell and follow us for all the good information that we're going to be talking about, not only today, but every day, because we do this every day. So doing pretty good.
We make our best effort.
We do.
Never miss a day.
It's almost like we do our best.
I'm
just
saying. Do you see what I'm drinking here? This is hotel tap water from Ottawa. Do you know how bad it is? The water in here is so bad. I'm actually thinking about buying water out on the street.
Whoa.
It is bad, man.
Wow.
Bad.
I don't even know how to process that. I mean, tap water. What's actually kind of interesting about tap water? It was one of the few things that I missed the most about Afghanistan. I was drinking bottled water for so long, and then I got home and I was like, yeah, tap water.
Yeah. It's magic.
It was pretty exciting.
It doesn't come out of a bottle.
And the other thing was those little packets, the little flavor crystal packets. I can't remember what the Just Right packets. I drank so many of those. I can't even look at them anymore. It just makes me ill to think about it.
I once told a story about how, you get up in the Arctic and you're up there for a month or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way that you can get by is, you're constantly boiling water in the Arctic so that you can drink water, boiling snow. And you're always pouring the orange Tang flavor crystals, the stuff that they invented in the 40s for the astronauts.
Yep.
Oh, man. My tongue swells just thinking about it.
I'm getting shivers already. So I had a topic for today that I was thinking about yesterday, actually, while I was at the Jits, and we were talking about angles, and we were going over passing. So I don't want to dive too deep into that one, but the thing that we were talking about that kind of caught me was the fact that it's very similar to the concept of the 3 Fs, which is fix, flank, and finish, right? Which is the basic concept that came out. What's that?
Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with the 3 Fs.
Oh,
as an acronym or whatever.
Yeah, this came out in World War II when they started using maneuver warfare a lot more, and they tried to figure this out. And the idea was that you fix your target. So you basically, as you're patrolling, right, and you're walking down the road, oh, the enemy engagement, and then you fix the target, which we use nowadays. So, you have your initial mad minute, and you try to win the firefight. You engage heavily to the front, and once the enemy is fixed in position, then you flank them, and then you close with and destroy to finish. And so that was the basic concept that they tried to teach the Joes, the original, the Infanteers back in the day, the GIs, whatever you want to call them. I don't know what they called in Canada. Is it CI? I don't know. Anyway, but I was thinking that, that also applies a lot to life and goals and goal setting and doing things that are large, is that you kind of have to fixate on them, but then be able to, once you hit a wall, shift to the side and try and hit it from a different angle, and then continue that kind of clover leaf out to the outside. What do you think?
I think that like if we're talking BJJ as the example, to pull it back into something, a different way to look at it maybe, is when fixing isn't as, it can be more subtle than like locking them down for a period of time and then making them choose something as a solution so that you can outflank them. You can fix them by retreating.
True.
So I'm saying that in battle, it's, if you consider the three steps that you just illustrated, it's kind of one dimensional. Whereas if you consider that same model on a more fluid basis, like on a BJJ mat, where there's a lot of micro movement, a lot of micro nuance, a lot of back and forth. It's a large three-dimensional bubble. Whereas the way kind of you initially described it, it's a very linear, oh, they're there, we're here. We do this, then we do that, then this. And you can see it in your mind's eye every time. But that you can't see that in your mind's eye in BJJ. You see what I'm saying? So I think the idea is sound. It's just that it's one dimensional. If you think of it like a standard issue infantryman, that it's shoot, 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 flank or flank, do my thing.
Well, absolutely. And it came out with the, when this was initially adopted, if I remember correctly, this was in early stages of World War II when maneuver warfare was just kind of being figured out. And prior to this, maneuver warfare was relegated to cavalry tactics. And which, I mean, has its uses, but I think
but it evolved on things like Onward, Road to 600 into the Valley of Death. The famous poem where basically they slaughter themselves by hi-ho silver straight into the artillery and machine guns. And so
the Charge of the Light Brigade.
Charge of the Light Brigade. So everything evolves off of mistakes to some degree, or should. And so from World War II to now, things should have evolved. But in my opinion, they haven't evolved that much. I mean, when you think about it on a pretty standard issue infantry scale of an assault, it's not like Jason Bourne ideas. It's not like mega thinking out of the box. You know what I mean? It's almost set piece movements. Now, as you advance from basic line infantry up into, various other kinds of more sophisticated approaches, then it gets Jason Bourne-ish, but definitely not from standard issue line infantry. I don't think anyway.
Yeah, that was my thought on it, was the fact that it's a starting place, right? It's something that you can, as an initial entrance into something, you go, okay, well, I just want to fix the problem into a position that I can then move and then look at it from another angle, versus, old school World War I or prior to World War I, where, okay, we're all going to line up and we're all going to shoot at each other.
Again, the evolution of warfare, or the evolution of maneuver tactics.
So do you think that as people, should our tactics evolve over time? Should we be continually seeking not so much the problems of what we're doing, but just, I mean, we say it all the time, how to do it better, right? But what about large evolutionary leaps? Because there are going to be times where you go like, what I'm doing just isn't working. I got to make a hard left turn. How do we, I guess, maybe grasp that concept? Where do we say, okay, this just isn't working? Whatever it is I'm doing, I've flanked 6-7 times, nothing is working. I need to completely reassess. Where's that line? Where do you think that line is? Is there a line?
Well, I think, the line can be non-existent, in the sense of you are in a constant state of free flow evolution. So that's one end of the spectrum, where you actually dome down and get your pen and paper and start writing out a new evolutionary battlefield tactic, micro adjust in a fluid real-time basis until how you started out the morning looks quite a bit different that afternoon because you've evolved in real time without having to sit down. Everyone come in here. We must talk about how to do this better. I mean, it just micro nuances itself if everyone's evolutionary. But if it's a fixed mindset, then that's an entirely different process. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm thinking there are a lot of people that I know that, that struggle outside of conformity, I guess, for lack of a better term. Like, they're so used to the system that they've built into their lives that to adjust even a small amount becomes kind of a large endeavor.
Oh yeah, for
right?
sure.
So I was thinking
it's definitely an evolutionary process in the sense of, like, the individual has got to have quite a few onward road to 600 moments. I mean, you gotta go through the grind. You gotta make the mistakes. You gotta make all the mistakes in order to evolve. And it takes all of that to then become sophisticated or experienced or nuanced enough that after a lot of mistakes, after a lot of practice, then it just sort of does itself. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's, I think, one of the things we forget a lot of the times is that we want a solution, right? We want a solution right now. I want to be able to fix this. This should be it. Oh, that's a good one. Is the fact that we use the term should. This should be X or should be Y. It should look like this. Based on what I do, it should happen this way. And one of the other days.
That's okay.
Okay. I was just thinking that. What? Go ahead.
I mean, it's okay. If someone doesn't know how to do whatever, who cares? And it's the first time doing whatever, who cares what that is? They'll probably blow it. And they'll probably learn from it. And then the next time they do it, it will probably look like this: fix, flank, fight. And now they've got a process to get involved in. They make all of those mistakes with the process. They adjust their process for them. And over a period of mistakes and over a period of time, maybe 1,000 times, then they start micro nuance adjusting in real time.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But you got to have a plan to start with. And if you're on day one and you don't know anything, you haven't even heard of the 3 Fs. Well, 3 Fs are better than nothing.
That's true. Yeah. We got Man of Words is joining us. Hey, Man of Words, how's it going? Great analogy. He says the most difficult thing to transition from a fixed mindset, or the most difficult thing is to transition from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. I don't know if that's difficult to transition. I think you have to go through difficulty in order to make that transition. What do you think?
I think he's right. I think it is difficult for people who've been in a fixed mindset for some time, and however long that is immaterial. But for some time, being the phrase, time enough or it's long enough that they're in a fixed mindset. And if you're in a fixed mindset, it's not just a case of you're sauntering down the sidewalk and think to yourself, you know what, I'm just going to switch to growth mindset now. It doesn't work like that, because they've been in a fixed mindset for some time. And so if they were in a growth mindset on a regular basis, they could saunter down the sidewalk and say, I'm switching to growth mindset now, and shazam, they'd be it. But that isn't the case if you've been fixed for some time. Then it definitely is a process. And if you've been in it for some time plus, you don't even know you're in a fixed mindset. You think you're in growth mindset.
I wonder if there's some sort of 3-day course that we could take from Sigma International.
I bet there is.
Could get us into a growth mindset right now. I like this concept, is that there's a starting point for everything, right? And a lot of that starting point, those start lines, are at the other side of either a large or small failure. And I think that it usually stems from the fact that there is something happened that you didn't like, that didn't
It's
work for you.
Can I just throw in a
Yeah,
little
give her.
tweak on
Yeah.
that? It has to be something that you recognize
Mm.
that you did wrong. You have to not only
Mm.
recognize that you did it wrong, but you also have to acknowledge that you need to fix it. So
Mm.
you can not know that you're doing anything wrong ever. And sometimes realize that you're doing things wrong and you just shrug your shoulders. Or you can sometimes realize you're doing some things wrong and not shrug your shoulders and think, how can I do it better next time? So there's
Mm.
many ways that that could all
It's
play
true.
out, of course.
Do you think that? Do you think it's required though to have that failure ahead of time? Do you think that it's a?
I do.
Yeah. You don't think
I
that?
think no. I think it's mandatory
Mm.
because otherwise now you're a dusty librarian reading books, thinking that you got the world figured out, and you've never bumped into a corner
Mm.
or a wall. So in your mind, you understand how to fix it all as it from academia, but none of those plans actually work in the real world,
Mm.
probably. And so I think the theories of life need to be tested in actual life, and they need to be tested with enough pressure that something breaks. And it's usually you. And so I don't think anyone who's wise can say with any substantial belief that you don't have to go out and test your theories and get broken. You don't
Mm.
have to go out there and make a boatload of mistakes. You can learn everything you need to learn about life with this dusty book. Here you go. That those aren't lessons, that's a book. Lessons are where you learn to do things better by pressure testing them and making mistakes, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, so like if everybody has to make mistakes and
Well,
everybody has
no,
to.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I said if you want to learn how to do things better,
Mm. Yes. Okay.
you
Let me
have to
rephrase
fix.
then.
And that is the devil in the details, my friend,
Yeah,
because
that's a good point.
some people don't want to make mistakes, and therefore
Hmm.
some people don't learn as fast as others.
Well, that's kind of where I was going with this was the fact that if let me rephrase that, if mistakes are required to grow, then
To grow
how
properly,
to grow
because
properly? How do we? Okay.
you cannot make any mistakes. You can open your book, think you know it all, never try anything, therefore never make any mistakes, and in your mind's eye you believe that you got it all figured out
Mm.
until you realize that you 100% don't the first time you step out of your bubble wrap into the world and bump your head into a wall.
That makes sense. There's a I don't know if you know if you're as big of a geek as I am, but there's a famous test
No.
within Star Trek called the Kobayashi Maru.
Oh yeah, that's a classic.
And yeah, and so it's designed around the fact that you can do everything right and still fail.
That's
And I
right.
think that is also a part of the lesson is that
100%.
you can make no mistakes and it still won't work.
And how
Um,
did he solve the Kobayashi Maru?
uh, Kirk cheated.
So, did he cheat or did he make enough mistakes that he could see the crack in the system and exploit it?
Well, I'm not big up on the lore, but I know in the latest movies he hacked the system and allowed himself to
Ah, well,
allowed
I
himself out
don't
of it. But
you
yeah,
know the new
not a
stuff.
big
Who
deal.
knows? But I mean the original like Captain James T. Kirk with the
Mhm.
Kobayashi Maru, et cetera, et cetera. You know, he didn't just saunter in with his coffee, sit down in his chair, and think, "What's next? The Kobayashi Maru? I've heard of it. Let's see if I can nail it first time." I
Yeah.
don't recall it as going that way.
No, I think he took it like 3 or 4 times, something
Yeah,
like that.
and he
So,
took it on the chin, is
mhm.
what he did, and so he made mistakes, not mistakes that you can say, "You loser." They're just mistakes, man. Mistakes are mistakes are almost a misnomer in the case of the Kobayashi Maru.
Mhm.
He was making choices that weren't working out, and therefore we'll call them quote unquote mistakes that he learned lessons from. But really, all he was doing was an evolutionary process where he was observing, improvising, adapting, and finally overcoming the problem.
I like that a lot. Man of Words says, I don't believe in no-win scenarios.
Yeah, I don't
James C.
either.
Kirk.
There's always a way. I believe there's a regiment out there or something like that that has this saying that kind of goes along these lines. We will always find a way. There is a way. We will find a way.
I gotta find that. I wonder who that is. That's
we will find a way.
We will find a way. I will look this up right now.
Yeah,
but it's a tricky position to be in too, because failure within certain regiments can be drastic. To when you talk, especially talking about military, I mean, you could be talking people's lives, right? So there is I think the hesitance to really dive into that is no one wants to deal with the consequences, I guess, really what it is. Because even if it is someone's life,
right,
then that's still going to be on you. If you're the one making decisions,
yeah,
that's on you.
Yeah,
and you gotta,
and that's why from day one, if you're stepping into a career that has consequences, you need to start evolving rapidly. You need to start learning how to improvise, adapt, and overcome rapidly. You need to as many opportunities as you can rapidly, rather than not.
Yeah, you want to make those mistakes early enough so that you're not in the phase of people's lives at this point. You're dealing with push-ups, or you're dealing with, oh no, I got to go run around the thing again, whatever. But yeah, I can't believe I did not know this, but it's CSOR.
What?
Canadian Special Operations.
That's so weird. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we will find a way. That is their motto. I like that. I didn't know that at all. Can't believe I didn't know that, but yeah.
That's okay. It's all right.
Yeah.
No bigs.
Yeah, I wasn't part of that team, so I guess I don't really need
to know. Weirdly enough.
Yeah, weirdly enough. It didn't come out. You were out of the military long before they were.
I was out before they came up with that phrase. But you know what? I love that phrase. And I've tried to live my life like that for a long, long time before the phrase became a phrase. I always tried to find a way, because I've got a little bit of James T. Kirk in me. There is no win solutions. They don't exist. There's a way to win.
Well, okay, yeah, there is a way to win. Sometimes the way to win is going to cost you a lot. And I think that...
Right. So categorize win. If win is a successful outcome and you have to give up a finger like John Wick, well, is that a win? It sucks. I don't want to lose a finger, but I have to proceed forward.
I like that, actually. That's a good analogy in terms of, if you have to lose a finger, in the long-term scale of things, losing a finger is not a big deal.
Right. It isn't, as long as in the moment before John Wick gets the little knife and hammers it off, presents it to the table, man, you got to make choices. He doesn't have to give up the finger. He does the math. He observes the moment and understands that in order to move forward, he's at a branching decision. He can step up and walk away, or he can chop off his finger. I mean, who wants to chop off their finger? Literally no one. But to move, that was the choice that he was presented, and therefore he decided to move forward.
I like that. I like it a lot. And I think if you were to extend that or expand that into life, there's going to be times, especially when you're young, where you're going to be hanging around people that aren't really going where you want to go. There are times where you're going to be surrounded by groups that you don't really want to be a part of, and sometimes you got to chop that finger off if you want to go places.
And you know what? The finger represents sacrifice, in my opinion. when I watch that movie or I think about it as a concept. It's a sacrificial move that you've got to get right with in order to proceed forward. And so the idea of if you've got some friends who are like a negative influence or dragging you down or just are so they're just not positive and you want them out of your life. To me, that's not a sacrifice if you've got to leave friends or move like fix, flank, and fight your friends or whatever the case is. I mean, those aren't sacrifices per se because they're already starting to morph into maybe the enemy, for lack of a better term. I mean, I'm not saying they're the enemy. I'm just categorizing them as an obstacle, we'll call them.
Yep.
And that's not really a sacrifice. That's almost a fix and flank and then move and bypass the objective.
Yeah.
So I think that if we're talking truly about sacrifice, that's the branching point where you get to decide forward, static, or forward or backwards, but not forward or not, sorry, that moment as you're going to chop your finger off, you don't get to think, I'm not going to chop my finger off and I'm still going to move forward. Now, this is a sacrificial moment. That's what it represents. That's where you get to make that branching decision of what do I want for me? Do I want to move forward or not?
I like that. There's a, it reminds me, there's a scene in Saving Private Ryan where Tom Hanks' character just is collecting Oppum, Corporal Oppum. I can't remember the actual character's name. But he starts dragging him out of the that CP, and he's like, "Okay, you don't need that. You don't need that. You don't need that.
Right.
You don't. But you will need that. But you don't need that.
Right.
That kind of thing." And I liken that a lot to it's kind of a sacrificial moment, but it's like a guided sacrifice, right? He's got to give up a lot of what he's carrying, in order to move forward with that team. But it's a guided process, right? He's being told, "Take this, take this. Don't take that. Don't take that." And do you think that is it doable to get through those sacrificial moments, led, versus having to do it yourself?
Easier. And the idea being that if you don't have anyone to lead you and it's just you and you alone and you're in that sacrificial moment, that's called pressure. Pressure tested. And whatever the sacrifice doesn't have to be a finger, obviously, that's only symbolic. But the sacrifice could be something as simple as, in order for me to proceed forward, I realize I've got to change my ways. Right now, my biggest obstacle is my mental health and my physical health. And therefore, I need to address that. How am I going to address that? I'm going to listen to some friends and they've been saying, go to BJJ. I'm going to try it for the first time. But the first class is free. After that, I've got to pay. It's a monthly membership. How am I going to pay for that? I know I need to make changes. I know that's a path I've got to go on. I can't afford it right now. But you know what? I'll figure it out while I'm watching some Netflix. How about this? The sacrifice in that moment is cancel Netflix, use that money towards BJJ. Cancel all of your other subscriptions, move that money towards BJJ. You can't eat steak every night anymore. That money is going to get BJJ. So you're making some sacrifices, quote unquote, which you'll look back at 3 or 4 years later and think, what was I even thinking? Those weren't sacrifices. Those were good decisions. I just didn't know it in the moment.
It is it's an interesting perspective too at times when you can look back on those sacrifices. In the moment, they seem huge. They seem larger than life. They're, oh my god, but I need it, right? They're just
preposterous.
But when you have the space of time, the distance to go, okay, that wasn't that big of a deal, and it helped me get to wherever I'm going, and a similar way to when you first join the military too, when you got to fly somewhere else to go to your training, and you have to leave home, and there's a sacrificial moment in that, and not so much that you're sacrificing your family, but you're sacrificing, perhaps you're not quite your childhood, but your previous
sacrificing
life.
nothing. It's symbolic.
Yeah,
you're standing with your family, and you're stepping onto a large green bus called the Army, and you wave at them as you drive away. There's nobody lost anything in the moment other than the symbolic moment of now you're leaving home.
Yeah.
Or now you're going overseas. Or what? Nothing has changed other than the symbolicness of the moment. Where it becomes real is when you're digging a trench in Afghanistan. So the symbolic moment of stepping onto a bus is literally nothing other than the symbol that I'm now moving in a new direction.
You don't think that it is you're sacrificing your previous life in order to? No, you don't think that at all?
No sacrifices being made at that point in that half step onto the bus. There's been no sacrifice at all, other than you're stepping into the future for sure. I would suggest that the sacrifice started before that, when you sat down and thought, I'm going to sign on that dotted line. And that's the moment when the sacrifice is being made, if you're thoughtful. But if you're not thoughtful, you'll scribble on a piece of paper, go over, grab a can of Pepsi, lean against the wall, and wait to see what happens next. But if you're thoughtful, before you sign on that dotted line, you'll know what it represents. Though it's a symbolic moment, it actually has heft. As you're half stepping onto the bus, you were already en route the moment you signed on that piece of paper.
That's a good point. Yeah. It's kind of hilarious that I always thought before I joined up, this is a little side story, that it was going to be like in the movies, right? Where you walk into recruiters, you sign the thing, and then you just you go back and you get on the bus, and then that takes your basic, and that's it.
Yeah, but between signing and the bus, of course, you're going to casually walk down the red carpet as people hand you things, and you get shots, and you have to sign more. Here's your dog tags. Here's the Lene. It's red flowers from Hawaii. Congratulations, warrior.
No. Oh man, it definitely did not happen that way, but it'd be cool. It'd be a cool way to get into it. I think I was influenced from all of the movies and all the things where you never really see the timeline in between those things.
Right.
And I think it's that delay initially that really throws a lot of people off, where they're just they're waiting for that phone call, that offer to come in.
Now the interesting thing is, and you would know this better than I, because of course I'm old Army, you're middle Army, and then there's this new Army, for lack of a better term, if that makes sense. I know the poor terms, but there is a timeline. And so my process and my experience would be different than yours, which would be very much different than the new military. And I know that it's not because I have experience with the new military, but I get DMs from young guys who've been waiting 1.5, 2 years sometimes to, they're just waiting to get on the bus.
Yeah.
What's left? Nothing. But get the bus here, for goodness sakes. And so I know it's sometimes 10 months, 1 year, whatever, but up to 2 years. I mean, what? Is the bus broken down? Everything's done. Drive the bus over here, you clowns. Yeah. So I can get on it and get on with the process that I started 2 years ago. So that is the polar opposite of signing on the dotted line, going through the back curtains and straight onto the bus,
Yeah, I got really lucky. I don't know about you, but I swore in December of 13, and I left for basic in I swore in December of 05, and I started my basic in January of 06. So it was fast, really fast. But then again, we were right in the middle of Afghanistan. Everyone's fighting. like there's lots of stuff that had to happen. But what was it for you when you first, like, how long between signing the line and leaving for basic? What was the timeline on
That's
that?
interesting. That's a good question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that. I've never really thought about it too much, but here's generally how it went. I went to the recruiter because that's what I wanted to do, was I wanted to be in the Army, period.
Mm-hmm.
I went down there, did all my processing, did all my paperwork, signed on the dotted line, or wrong, went through the process and thought, now I'm waiting to hear back from them. And so, I don't know, a few weeks went by and I was like, what? I haven't heard from them yet. I better go figure out a plan B.
Mm-hmm.
So I went up to a college. I was living in Nanaimo at the time. And I thought, what am I going to do? Oh, there's a new program. It's just starting out, first one in Canada. And it's called Forestry Resource Technology. Cool. What? You say it's hard to get in? All right. I'm not that smart, but I'm going to give that a try. And so I put my name in, and within a half a year, I'd heard back from the military, and I'd heard back from Malaspina College, Forestry Resource Technology, both letters. Because remember, there's a time in Canada when we communicated by letters. Both letters came in on the same day. I pulled them out of the mailbox. I was like, oh, the Army. Oh, and the college. Oh, they both accepted me. I guess I've got to make a branching decision today.
Mm-hmm.
So I hedged my bets, thinking that, what? I thought I just walked out the back and got on the bus. It's been a few weeks. What the heck?
But then again, that's a moment of sacrifice, right? You're sacrificing an entire future in, the college and that whole thing for the future that you've or for that future that you really wanted, which was the Army. And I think that also that goes into a lot of our decision-making processes let me rephrase. It doesn't go into a lot of decision-making processes, in that I don't think a lot of people actually see those branching choices as sacrifices.
Well,
in that you have to give up one for the other.
Actually, a lot of people don't see the branching point.
Hmm.
Literally, life is constant branching points.
Yeah.
And branching points, that moment where I had to make those two large decisions, which are quite divergent, that was a symbolic moment, because it was a radical life choice in a sense. And the only sacrifice I was making was giving up one life to have a radically different life. But there was no cost to me in that moment other than future cost, of course. And so, but life is like that every day. But they're just not grand moments that feel symbolic. They don't feel sacrificial. But every day there's branching choices. There's always divergence.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm entering into a divergent moment, I'm considering future costs. Just like when a bunch of my clown friends said, hey, Shaun, you need to quit your coaching job and go be a podcaster. It's a divergent moment in a future life that I hadn't anticipated. A sacrificial moment, a symbolic moment where I had to consider future costs. And so that's big, and those are easy to understand. What isn't big or easy to understand is all the micro branching decisions every day that people are sometimes unaware of.
That's a great point. And it really does. They add up. They add up so quickly. And, you and I were talking about this, I think, in the green room at one point in time, was the fact that I find it fascinating to be able to look back on my life or on somebody else's life and find those big branching moments, those big decisions that you make in your head. You're like, I'm going to do this, and then follow that path, and and it becomes a very distinct branching point. But the thing that we really don't look around. Oh, hey, Winter Storm, morning. Late to the party. The thing that I don't think we really maybe grasp or qualify at times, or quantify, I should say, is the fact that, when do you wake up in the morning? Because that's a decision. When do you, what are you wearing today? That's a decision. And it affects the next subsequent decisions throughout the day, which then affect the next subsequent decisions throughout the week, which through the year, all into the future. And I don't know if we really quantify that or how important those small decisions are.
Well, no one does. No one does until they do.
And that's the end of the podcast, everybody. Shaun doesn't have a mic, but he would mic drop from that, or maybe he just flicked the mic away, one or the other. But well, why not? Why don't you think people do? Why do you think it requires that hard line?
I think if you're not thoughtful, then you're thoughtless. And if you want to have thought, you've got to become thoughtful. And so if you start applying thoughtful moments in your day in real time, being present, considering how to do things better, you should be starting to see a lot of branching points in your day, not just in your year or not just in your life, in each day. But that requires consistency of effort day after day. And I know this is going to sound like drudgery. It's going to sound like homework. But if you can create some consistent real-time observation of your day and what branching points mean to you, then you can start observing the day as branching points. Then you should then be able to start considering, do I do good or do I do bad? If you want to turn it into a binary solution. Do I want to become more awesome or do I want to become more suck? Binary choice. Now, it doesn't have to be as broad-based as that, and it doesn't have to be as binary as that. I don't binarize it, except when I first started. Now I don't have any choices in front of me. I don't have any switch on or off. I just simply have always options and always branching points in real time. But when I first started that theoretical model, it was just big moments with either an A or a B. That's how I started to learn how to have infinite options all the time. But you got to start the game on Monopoly in order to learn how to play it.
That's true. That's true. Or you got to read the instructions at least. You got to open the box before anything else. Yeah.
Got to take the wrapper off the box.
Take that plastic wrap off. Get rid of the bubble wrap, and start opening the game. I like that. And it's a learned skill, right? And I think maybe we do need some homework for the collective, and I think this would be a good one. We got a quick little Shane for the Cause says, "Good morning, gents. Great dialogue. I'm off to leg day 2. Have a great weekend."
Nice, buddy.
Yeah. Winterstorm, thoughtful equals thoughtful. Yeah. Not referring to the quantity of thoughts, but the fullness you put into thinking about a thought.
I totally dig it.
Yeah, I agree. I think I lost my point. I don't remember what I was going to say, but I got shinied with the comments.
you got distracted by how many good comments were there.
Comments.
Good comments.
Yeah.
Not just comments, good comments.
Good comments. These are really good comments. But so homework for the collective. I think this is a good one for the collective. And I'm going to do this today myself. Is to write it down. Write down those decision-making processes, right? And just little bits and pieces here and there. Or not just little bits and pieces, but write down those little decisions. Write it like, I chose to do X over Y, or, make those branching points so you can physically see them and then look at them tomorrow and say, did I choose the suck or did I choose awesomeness?
And another way to do it, I think I like your idea, buddy, but it's rare for someone to start on a new paradigm shift with a notepad and a pen in their hand for the entire day, walking around doing their normal routine. It's just probably not going to happen. Yeah. So I think that, another way to do it on day one is while you're seeking that paradigm shift, just instead of taking the notes in as you're moving around your office space, leave the notepad and pen down, because obviously that's just not going to fly in a regular business day.
Yeah.
What will work, though, is being present and thoughtful with the idea that today is the day that I start to pay attention about what the notable branching points were in this day in front of me. And then when you get home and you have a bit of time, quiet in the evening, you sit down and contemplatively note what was relevant in your day that you feel was the or several branching points that you can consider and build off of moving forward. 10 years later, you don't need the notepad and pen. You don't need to sit at home and contemplatively consider what the branching points were, because it's just like blinking and breathing. It's autonomous. It's become a patternized, offloaded, gamified process that occurs in the background autonomously for you. It's a practice skill that is as, hang on a sec, how many times have you blinked your eyes over the last minute?
7.
Unconscious. Man, I did 8.
Yeah. Well, you're a bit of an overachiever. What can you say?
I'm competitive.
Yeah.
I'm a blink champion. So you've got to offload it over time, because you can't spend your day, if you're busy or if you're trying to accomplish more, with a notepad and a pen in your hand like day one. So you can offload that stuff at the end of the day contemplatively, and over practice over time, you'll find that you'll need the notepad and pen less, until eventually they don't even exist,
I like that. You're right. Notepad and pens. You know what? I remember walking around in my uniform all the time, always having a pen and paper on me. Just,
yeah, for sure.
That's requirement. But
pocket.
I don't. Yeah, but I don't have that on me anymore. So
Not
it makes a lot of sense
anymore.
Yeah, and but you know what we all do have.
I know we've all got phones, buddy. I know. I saw it in my mind's eye, and I thought, how many times in branching points do you pause, 2, 3, shut down your Netflix to switch to a note app to write down, here's what I learned in this branching moment? Literally no one.
Yeah, literally no one. But what you could do is, if you do have a thought, if there's something where you go, oh, this is a great point, and you don't want to forget it, put it in your notes. Absolutely. Pull your phone out, put a little note down, and then come into it later.
Like maybe, I don't know, like what the heck? If only someone had recently talked about having something, the Daily Stoic Journal, something, taking notes down on important things, etc., etc. Wow, look at that. How like weird. That. What a coincidence.
Odd how that happens. But yes, I think this is the homework for the collective, for everybody out there that's watching, that's listening. Take the day today. And it's actually great that this is a morning show right now. It's that we have the rest of the day for most people, even the Atlantic boys. Take the day, enter into your decision-making processes today thoughtfully. And when you hit one of those branching points, either put a note down in your phone or remember it for later. And at the end of the day, contemplate those choices and decide whether or not they were awesomeness or less than awesomeness. And
more importantly, use whatever it is and whatever you allocate it as good, bad, or indifferent. It's less about the categorization, and it's more about the contemplative understanding of, I'm simply just trying to do it better.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great point.
You don't even have to beat yourself up. You don't have to be mega hard on yourself.
What?
You mean just the entire practice is improvement, not beating yourself up. Though if you want to do that, that's fine as well. But it's about improvement. Hang on. It's about improvement. And for me, I don't need the warm milk and honey.
True.
Some people do.
Some people
I don't mind taking one on the chin like Captain Kirk and beating the Kobayashi Maru. And so everyone's cut from a little bit of different cloth. If you know yourself, you'll figure out how best to do it for yourself today. At the end of the day, as you're writing down your notes, thinking about how to do it better.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is grace, not slack, right? You have to give yourself the grace to fail and be like, yeah, I screwed that up. Okay, cool. And then move on rather than sit around and beat yourself up. I mean, you can, but that is also a branching point.
I screwed up. Yeah, cool. But not move on. I screwed up.
Move forward.
Yeah, cool. How am I going to do it better?
That's a great point. Yeah. Thank you for that clarification. You're right. Actually, the move forward with your decision rather than just move on. We have a couple comments again. Julie. Hey, Julie. Sorry, that was my bad. I didn't get that invite out to you till late. You were probably asleep. So my apologies. We'll get you on again very soon. Very, very soon. Winterstorm says, spinning plates. What choices did I actually have control over? If I had no control over them, get rid of the plate. If I did have control, what time and effort did I put into them? And then how did that affect my day? I like that.
Well, using that idea, nobody knows how to spin a lot of plates initially. You've just got to pick up one and try to figure out how to spin that. And as you get better and better, you'll add more and more plates. And as plates drop and fall and break, those are called mistakes or failures or lessons learned, however you want to categorize it. But through an evolutionary process, you go from no plates to 10 plates.
Mm-hmm.
And as you get better and better, you get to do tricks with those 10 plates. And then as you do it more and more and get better and better, now there's no plates. But the crowd is enjoying a whole bunch of plates spinning in the air. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is it's also a point on the amount of effort that's going to be put forward. So if you're just starting and you can get a plate spinning, or maybe you can get two, or let's say you just all of a sudden decide we're going to start 5 plates. Woo! You're going to expend a ton of energy and you're going to drop a lot of plates right off the bat.
Or you might just quit on day one.
Or you'll quit on day one. Then this is what I was going to get at, was the fact that if you try to do too much too fast, you don't have the background or the experience to be able to manage that many plates spinning all at once. And so it's always smarter to focus on one. Yeah. So any tips for anybody spinning plates on getting a plate started? How do we get a plate started?
It's pretty simple. Come up with your idea of I want to spin plates. Go find one, practice with one. Now, if you want to become David Copperfield, a magician with plates, well, you've got to put, there's a simple equation. To become effortless, it requires a lot of effort. So however much effort you put in is however much effortless it will be in the future. If you want to make, there is no spoon from the Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to bend a spoon, you've got to learn that there is no spoon. If you want to have an effortless outcome, it requires a massive amount of effort that eventually is an effort.
Yeah.
That is eventually effortless. So on day one, it's all hard. One plate looks like 10 plates. And if you don't want to put the effort in to make it effortless in the future, well, that then comes down to what outcome are you seeking? How much do you want to prioritize? And how much are you investing in yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. We have one last comment here. I think, well, not last comment, but one more comment. Winterstorm says, plate 1, counting blinks per minute.
Yeah.
Who's going to win that one?
Yeah. Well, you know what? He's right. If you want to understand how to not concern yourself with how many times you've blinked in a minute, you've got to start from day one counting. Am I even blinking? Oh, I am blinking. I recognize that it's happening. This takes effort to blink. And then within pretty short order, within a couple of minutes, of course, all grown adults would think, okay, I understand that game now. I don't have to think about it. And now I'll just autonomously offload that. Can you imagine if we all were walking around in our lives every single waking moment having to count our blinks,
Oh man.
having to be aware of our blinks.
Or to actively blink.
So, right. And so nobody thinks about that we don't have to. I mean, but all it is an autonomous process offloaded.
Yep. Yeah. Well, this is the interesting thing in life, is that it can pass you by if you let it, in every aspect of it. Blinking, breathing, drinking enough water. There's lots of times where I don't drink enough water, and I recognize that I'm not drinking enough water, and I don't just go and drink water. I just like, man, I haven't drank enough water today, and I'll carry on with the rest, whatever I'm doing.
Yeah. A little too late.
A little too late, exactly. But the benefit, at least, is you don't know. And that's not really so much benefit, is that you just don't know. And until you take the time to go, ooh, I have not drank enough water. That's the beginning, right? Then you go, oh,
I believe there's an old phrase that goes along this line: ignorance is bliss.
Is it really bliss, though, do you think?
Not at all, of course.
No. What do you think? I'd love a better description than bliss, because it never seemed like bliss.
It's a direct quote from the Matrix. It's no big
For
deal.
sure. No, but what I'm asking you, though, do you think that there's a better word? Do you think that there's something that could be used better, though?
No, I think the phrase is beautiful, because if you're truly ignorant, I mean, if you're absolutely oblivious, if you don't know anything about anything, it's kind of blissful, I suppose.
Yeah.
Not for me. I mean, are you kidding me? That's insanity. That's the total polar opposite of how I try to run my life.
Yeah.
But if you're truly ignorant, if you don't know anything about anything, and you're happy because you don't know anything about anything, your world is so simple that the simplicity of the world makes you happy. Man, that'd be a fun pill to take. I don't know how long I'd want to take it, though.
Do you think that is basically childhood, though? Right? Like, you don't really know. You have a general ignorance of most things, and your life is very simple, right? You wake up and you go to school, and you get fed breakfast, and I'm not saying, I'm just generalizing here. I'm not saying that's everyone's childhood.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think as a child, it is blissful in terms, like, I remember being a kid, and remember the only thing I had to worry about was like Saturday morning cartoons and cereal.
Okay, I understand. So how about this, is to build off of that real quick, because I'm desperately running out of time. The idea being that, using your example, from early childhood, a blissful state. As we get older, we move further and further away from a blissful state, and perhaps some people stay on a linear trajectory that doesn't improve that model. Only it decays until they move from blissful all the way through to so unhappy it's the opposite of blissful. But that's a linear trajectory that you can start slowing down or reversing at any time if you start looking for branching points to start seeking more bliss.
I like that. I like that a lot. It can lead to a distinct life of nihilism. And I think that's kind of where we're sitting in a larger scale with a lot of things going on right now in the world. But it is, I think that stems for a lot from that, is that we've gone from a blissful state well past into a very negative state. But that's just, I agree. So, homework for the collective. We got a minute left. Quick couple comments. Manoword says, go do BJJ. 100%. So he did his first class, and he's already saying, go get it. So absolutely. Winterstorm says, your bliss is always someone else's effort. Oh, I'm assuming as a child. That makes sense. Your ignorance is someone else's diligence.
Dude,
look
at, we're wrapping up and you're dropping these mega nuclear strikes. What the heck?
So we'll talk about those another time, and we'll carry on. Make sure that everyone does their homework. Take the day, be thoughtful, full of thought, and that way you can learn, build, and grow here with us on the collective.
Nice, buddy.
We'll talk to you all tomorrow. Chimo.
Chimo.